again, strength, blood, guts, let's clear a lane, let's run it down their throats type mentality. That has not been the Eagles in the first 4 games of the season.
No.
There have been some reasons to the lurch for Brandon being out. How much do you think emotion and leadership, as rah-rah as it is on the field, is actually hurting this defense?
I mean, I think that's huge. I can't speak for them, but I say anytime you lose a talismanic kind of player who kind of sets the tone and gets the guys prepped before the game and has brings a lot of veteran leadership to the table. There's a ripple effect of that. When those.
You got Mac and Mac Squared, John McMullen, Jody McConnell with John Birch, 365. All right, we got Kevin Kinkead from Crossing Board, who's figuring out how to get himself lit. What the hell is going on there at the house, Kinkead? You look like you should be starring in a horror show, not Birch 365, which many people from time to time do mistake for a horror show, but get some light on in that house.
I know. The question is what's not going on in this household. I have a dog over here.
Yeah.
There's Baxter.
There we go. Yeah. I like that.
I have a 3-week-old in the other room over here. So just got my 2-year-old out the door just in time. So unfortunately for you guys, I couldn't get my whole professional lighting rig set up. The guy holding the thing over my head here. So hopefully this is satisfactory. I'll try to make it work.
As long as we can hear what you said, that's the most important.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. It's good to see you, Kevin. Haven't spoken to you. Well, I guess the last time you're on, I wasn't here, but I do always like to get you on to get that sort of fan base mentality and how the fan base is looking at it, because you guys get so much interaction at Crossing Broad. And it is we know Philadelphia. We know the extremes. Week 1. Jalen Hurts is going to the Pro Bowl. Nick Sirianni's going into Canton 20 years down the road. Now here we are, fast forward, after a couple losses, by the way, to great offenses, arguably the best offense in the NFL, top 5 potential offense in Dallas. Jonathan Gannon all of a sudden is dumber than Jim Schwartz. Is this just the natural evolution of the week to week and people will settle down, or are people really upset about the way this is going?
No, I think people settle into it as the week goes along. I think when you look at it in a vacuum and you say you gave up 42 points at home, the sky is falling, right? And then when you kind of sit on it a little bit, you go outside and you smoke a cigarette or you drink a beer where you log off of Twitter, you do whatever you do to decompress after a game. I think people kind of say you start to talk yourself. You're like, well, it was the Chiefs, and it was Mahomes and it was Tyreek Hill. So, all those different pieces of nuance need to be considered. And then you go back and you think about the fact that they had 3 touchdowns wiped off the board by penalties, And so when you start to look at the little things that actually matter, now you don't feel as bad about it as maybe you did in the thick of it. But, yeah, I mean, I think that there's certainly some people who are like, look, Nick Sirianni's not the guy. He's got to go. He's a one and done. And, people get their stories up and they get their clicks and whatnot. But, I think as far as the responses that we've been getting on Facebook and Twitter and social and whatnot, I think people are just kind of Hurts looked pretty good in the last game. And, Nick Sirianni, his game management is an issue. But, the first 2 drives that he called were really, really solid and showed a lot of what he can be in the future. And so I still think there's kind of, I don't know if I'd call it cautious optimism, but I think that there's fewer people are going glass half empty than we would expect after a game like that.
KK, here's where I cut Nick Sirianni some slack. To say the Eagles have been sloppy in their first 4 games would be a bit of an understatement. Is that just because of poor coaching, or was it because of poor preparation? And part of poor preparation is how much time and effort you put into practices, which I'm not sure Nick Sirianni has. I know he doesn't have complete control. I'm not sure how much control he has at all. That's on the organization. They're making organizational decisions as to how much time and effort they're putting into practice. That's why I cut Nick Sirianni some slack to this point. Is that fair? Am I being unbalanced and giving him too much slack? How do you look at the Eagles' under preparation at this point.
No, I mean, I think that's probably fair. And like when you go back and look at all these different individual things, like, start with the penalties, right? Okay, so the Arcega-Whiteside push off could have been debatable. I mean, they seem to be upset about that call. Devontae Smith is a rookie and Jalen Reagor's a second-year guy. So those illegal touching penalties, you can clean it up with young guys, The Andre Dillard penalty that wiped out a touchdown. In college, that's not even a penalty, because you're trying to tread the 1 yard threshold for these, option play for these run pass options and things like that. And it's just, those are infinitely harder to pull off at the NFL level than they are in college because of the different rules. So no, I think it's all that all amounts to growing pains, new coach, bunch of rookies out there, a bunch of young guys out there. And, I think I remembered reading something where, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Nick Sirianni said, they're not super interested in taking guys off the field and making them sit after a penalty in practice because they value reps, know. But the one thing is like, okay, well, you can do as many reps in practice as you want to do. Like, so you're losing a guy for 1 rep because he committed a stupid penalty in practice. He's got to go off to the side. Like, that's where I would change it, because there's got to be a way to add discipline to it, in practice for these guys to learn it that way. Because if you just say, well, we need this valuable rep and we're going to keep you on the field, then is the guy learning anything? So I think it's a combination of young staff, young guys, and growing pains. And also they could probably make some tweaks with practice too.
Yeah, you're right, Kevin. That's how they do it. And it's interesting. It's a little Chip Kelly sentiment there in the fact that, and what Jody spoke about as well, they don't have a lot of time. So they don't want to waste reps. And then they say, let's go inside during the meetings. Let's correct it there. So that's kind of the philosophy. And that goes back to this give and take of repetitions in general. And, in theory, if the more reps you have, the better you get at something. But it's kind of a new school, and Howie Roseman and company have decided that this is the way to get through a season as healthy as possible, and the coaching staff has to deal with that as best as possible. So I do think there is some give and take, but I want to shift to Jonathan Gannon because he's the guy taking all the hits coming off that Kansas City game. And I think you're right. I think people forget the best part that I'm going to guarantee the Eagles defense gets better for this one reason. Patrick Mahomes is not on the schedule anymore. Tyreek Hill is not on the schedule. It's an outlier game. But people in Philadelphia, and you know this better than most, they want to blitz. They want aggressiveness.
I know. Yeah. And on the offensive side, they want to run the ball on the offensive side too. There are like stylistic things that like just match kind of the attitude of a city that this is what the fans think football should be. And that's why I think when you hear Jonathan Gannon say, well, we're just not a dime defense right now, keyword being right now. I'm sitting here thinking
everybody missed, by the way. Everybody missed the right now.
Right now part.
Yeah. I mean, and even then with the right now, you could parse that a million different ways. I mean, the interpretation, I just sit back in there. I think about like the Jim Schwartz defenses from the Super Bowl year, where they would go dime and they'd have Nigel Bradham anchoring and they'd bring on, Patrick Robinson as the nickel. Hey, back. Sorry, he sees a squirrel right there. It's all right, man. No barking.
I'm a big dog, man. He can do it.
Look, this is the problem. He looks out the backyard all day long. Yeah. But when he sees an animal out there, he starts going apoplectic. So then I got to get him off of the ledge and I got to bring him down. I got to close the blinds here. So Baxter, I just need you to behave for like another 15 minutes here, right? They bring like Patrick Robinson in to play nickel. Corey Graham is like a dime. They had Rasul Douglas for some of those sets. I'm like, so is Jonathan Gannon saying to us that at this very moment he doesn't think he has 6 DBs worthy of putting on the field? Because the flip side of that is like, do you have 2 linebackers worth putting on the field?
Yeah.
So I get it that they want to make themselves like, they don't want to give up explosive passing plays. And to this day, they're the 7th best passing defense yardage wise in the NFL. But the flip side of that is they're the 2nd worst rushes. So at some point when he says like, I don't have a scheme, aren't we getting into semantics here? Because at the end of the day, you got to put the defense, you got to put 11 guys out on the field in some kind of deployment, some kind of formation. So it's almost like I wish he would just kind of, I don't really know what he's trying to say there. Is he saying we don't have the personnel to play dime right now? Or is he saying I don't like dime? Is he saying I think our linebackers are better? Because I don't, in all of that stuff, John and Jody, that he said the other day in that press conference, I didn't come away from any of it feeling like I had an answer to anything, you know? And so I don't know. It's to this day, 4 games in, I don't know what Jonathan Gannon is.
All right, I'm going to ask you for an opinion, not necessarily an answer, because none of us know for sure, and we got to wait till it either happens or doesn't happen. I thought your point about the want of the Philadelphia fan was right on. John had it right. Blitz, kill the quarterback, blood and guts. That's what the Philadelphia fan base wants out of its defense. And since I got here in 1990, and it hasn't changed. Offense, at least this one does change every once in a while, depending on personnel and the coaching staff and who you got a quarterback. But they do like to run the football. And again, strength, blood, guts, let's clear a lane, let's run it down their throats type mentality. That has not been the Eagles in the first 4 games of the season.
No.
There have been some reasons. Certainly the team you're playing, the ability to score big points, 2 straight 40-point games, kind of reduces the amount that you really should be thinking about running the football. But this hasn't changed in my many years covering football. The game always starts 0-0. So the worst you can be behind is 7-0 the first time you get the football. So does this week's game against the Carolina Panther offense, which isn't as good as Kansas City's, isn't as good as Dallas, is this the game where Nick Sirianni actually said, we need to establish the run. We need to dictate terms here. We need to be the aggressor in determining how this game is going to go. You think they come out and run the ball, try and run the ball down Carolina's throat early on Sunday?
I mean, I hope so. And, one thing I wish coaches would stop saying is like, well, the situation of the game or the way the game played out dictated what we did. Okay, like you really don't have to go into like 10 straight pass mode unless you're down 2 touchdowns in the third quarter, the fourth quarter. Like you can be down 7-0 in the first quarter. Doesn't mean you got to start throwing the ball all of a sudden. Right. You have 2 full quarters to establish the run. We know how good offenses are now in the NFL where it's, you can have these quick strike drives now where you can get yourself back into a game. So I don't think you throw your game plan out the window because Tyreek Hill and Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce came right down the field and scored a touchdown. Like you got to commit to what you're doing. I know that they like, and they keep saying this, that they consider RPOs to be run plays. And if they want to look at that and think of it that way, that, hey, there was a chance that Miles Sanders could have got the ball here, that's okay. But the bottom line is that you don't look at how many times he could have gotten the ball. You look at how many times he did get the ball. So regardless of whether they call, you could have 60 plays in a game, right? And if they called 60 RPOs, but 59 times Jalen Hurts made the correct read to pull it and throw it, then it still means that Miles Sanders only touched the ball once. So how do you sell that to a fan base, that wants 3 yards in a cloud of dust? They want LeGarrette Blount, and they want between the tackles kind of stuff in the red zone. You saw when they did give it to Kenneth Gainwell the other day on that one red zone carry that he had, and went for a touchdown. So, I'm not saying that they need to, like, the Eagles need to have Jerome Bettis in there and they need to just pound you for like 3 or 4 yards at a time, but you do have to have, some kind of balance there, and it's just not there. So I don't know what their thing is with Miles Sanders. They seem to favor Kenneth Gainwell a little bit more, but even last year, guys, when Miles Sanders was touching the ball like 10 to 12 times a game, we were still saying that wasn't enough. So now how are you going to sell these fans on like 5 to 7? So I regardless of how they get the ball to him, he needs the ball in his hands and he's not getting it enough. So that's the bottom line.
Well, let's talk about messaging then, KK, because I think that's been the biggest problem. You brought up some of it. You have Jonathan Gannon saying one day, I don't have a scheme. Nick Sirianni the next day is saying, well, we have a scheme, but that it's players. He always throws that out there. Is that just youth and inexperience on the coaching staff, learning on the job, keeping everybody on the same page? Now you have, I was mentioning to Jody before you came on, you have Fletcher Cox, who's obviously not performing. I think this part's a little bit more difficult for Gannon because he's got veteran guys. He's got guys like Cox and Slay who've had success in other schemes, other ways of playing defense. Now they're not seeing success in this case. You can see the slippery slope. I don't think we're there, but you could see things going in a negative direction if it continues. Nick is a little bit more insulated from that because everybody's so young. But you think messaging is the bigger part than what's going on the field?
Well, yeah, I think so. And I don't, like I remember, I guess there was a quote yesterday, Fletcher Cox saying, like, look, I've been a 3 technique for most of the last however many years under Jim Schwartz. And now they have me playing 4, which, I mean, if we're being honest, really isn't that much different. But for defensive linemen who do it every day, sure, even the smallest thing like that is a hard adjustment for him. So I just wish it's to me with Jonathan Gannon, it just seems like he's like trying to say that he doesn't want to be typecasted into any kind of specific coach or any type of specific scheme or something like that. But what is the problem with that? Like every defensive coordinator is known for doing like some kind of specific thing. When the Falcons, when Dan Quinn had coached the Falcons the last couple of years, everybody knew them as kind of like a prototypical cover 3 team. Okay. Yeah. But he didn't say like, don't call me a cover 3 team. Like there was no, like, it seems like a pride thing. I that's my like weird interpretation of it. It's like, I want to have this, like, don't call it anything. This is just about the personnel. Well, regardless, you got to put the guys on the field in some way. And Philly sports fans aren't that dumb where they're just like, oh, okay, this is some like new, crazy, amazing, innovative thing. Like you got to put 11 dudes on the field so they know what they're looking at. But yeah, the messaging could help it for sure, But again, it's like it's almost like pick your poison, like because you don't have 3 linebackers who are good enough to play 4-3 base. You probably don't have 6 DBs who are good enough to play dime. So you're going to have to be weak at something, right? And they've decided that we're going to get gashed in the running game, but we're not going to give up any explosive pass plays over the top. So maybe it's them looking at themselves in the meeting room saying like, this roster isn't good enough right now. And we're just going to try to keep it as safe as possible, be as conservative as possible. And, the result is, 12 plays, 87 yards and 7 points. So that's what we got to live with, I guess.
KK, want to get your take on the emotional aspect of football. We all know it's an emotional game, played physically and emotionally. We talked about it certainly when he went down, and now we're seeing the results. Brandon Graham comes out of the Eagle lineup. Not only is he a high-level producer and player, but he's also the unquestioned leader of the defensive unit, maybe the leader of the entire football team. I don't know that they've been able to replace him. I don't know that they will be able to replace him. Somebody's got to step into the lurch. I get it. Everyone is supposed to be individually motivated. That your job is to take it upon yourself to be motivated, but there is a collective to football as well. Are they not putting enough emphasis on it? Or is there no one possible who's capable of stepping in to the lurch for Brandon being out? How much do you think emotion and leadership, as rah-rah as it is on the field, is actually hurting this defense?
I mean, I think that's huge. I can't speak for them, but I say anytime you lose a talismanic kind of player who kind of sets the tone and, gets the guys prepped before the game and has brings a lot of veteran leadership to the table. There's a ripple effect of that. When those guys go down, you can feel the air kind of like deflating in the room. You can sense it in the fan base too. I mean, like just based on the reaction to it that, hey, this is, this ain't good. And I think on a more practical, like on-field level too, you see now how good of a run stopper Brandon Graham was. I don't know how many times I counted the other day where Derek Barnett and Josh Sweat kind of just like went, aggressively just kind of went right past the quarterback. And then there's no edge, because they're too far upfield and the quarterback's just stepping up into the pocket, So his ability to set the edge, his ability to stop the run, veteran leadership, all that stuff. I mean, now you got a guy in Derek Barnett who the fan base can't stand. You got a guy, Josh Sweat, who now has the weight of contract on his shoulders to play with. You got Ryan Kerrigan, who has he logged a statistic yet? Did he log a statistic?
No,
okay,
not
so
yet.
It's all then by you look at that in turn, and it's like, well, what the hell is going on at defensive end? So yeah, it's not just like losing him from a spiritual or a motivational standpoint, but then practically on the field, like where the hell are you at with the defensive ends right now? So I think there's a lot of reasons why fans are probably bummed out about that.
Yeah, you're right about Brandon, by the way, in the run game. People did not realize just how good he was at that aspect of it, and it's starting to show up. Now we got to worry about Lane Johnson, the personal issues, but KK, I got you. So last one for me, because I talk too much Eagles. I got to get into the exciting stuff for me. AEW was in town yesterday at the Liacouras Center.
Yeah.
And we got Bleep Ben Simmons chants. How big were they? I saw you put up one video. How was it bigger? And then real quick, there's a second one I want to get at you. Angelo Cataldi announced his retirement. It's not for a long time. You put out, now I looked at it real quick at practice yesterday. a list of 75 potential replacements. I didn't see Jody McDonald on. Was he on there?
No, that goes without saying. I think Jody would be if I did a list.
Here's what goes without saying: Jody McDonald is getting up too early to do this stupid
You're not
show.
doing that shit.
I'm not getting up to do that stupid show.
4 a.m. ain't doing it for you. Yeah, that was we do our little like half onion, half Deadspin, half whatever. But yeah, we have a lot of fun with those. So no, Jody would always be my first choice at heart.
Good recovery there, Kinkead.
Maybe we'll do a serious list at some point too. But the AEW thing, one of our guys was down there actually, and so there was a bunch of different videos of it. It sounded loud and it sounded in sync and it sounded in unison. So I just kept thinking to myself, man, if we're getting this chant at an AEW event at the Liacouras Center in October, with them on a Wednesday night, then what's it going to be like when Ben does come back here? What a disaster, man! I can't even I came back from paternity leave like 2 weeks ago. And the first day was media day where Ben didn't show up, and then the Eagles got their doors blown off by the Cowboys that day. And then we had the first day of training camp the next day. I was like a Walking Dead zombie for those like 48 hours, just trying to like stay upright. But I was just like sitting there thinking to myself, like, what a nightmare, to walk back into this. But I've never seen somebody shoot themselves in the foot. Like if I was Ben Simmons, I would just get rid of Clutch right now and say, like,
I would as well, man.
What are you feeding me? Yeah,
this has been a terrible plan, more than the Eagles' offense shooting themselves in the foot with the penalties.
I just see he's lost enough money, guys. So far, we're doing like a fine calculator. It was some fan was like, it was a great idea actually. It's like you should compile every day like how much money he's been fined and how much he's lost so far. He's lost the estimate that we've done, because the fines are varying. They can be up to a certain amount per day for like practices and stuff. But he's lost the maximum so far is in a week and a half is like $442,000.
And evidently, Clutch Sports doesn't know this. Didn't know it was coming. For that alone, you got to fire them.
But
we didn't know they'd be this bad.
I'll give you an NFL connection here, since this is a football show. Somebody in the Sixers front office pointed out to me that the reason that you see holdouts in the NFL a lot more than you see them in like the NBA is because the fine structure that's written into the CBA or whatever it escalates severely. So it's not like you can just hold out and still make it. You get absolutely killed in the NBA to the tune where it gets to like 50,000, like 200,000, 250,000. Then like I think the number, once you get past the 20th game in the season, you start getting docked for like more than like $300,000 a game or something like that. So you just start getting crushed, because the games are so thick and fast. Like all of a sudden you look up like a month later and you're out like $3 million.
Yeah.
So it's insane that it's come down to this. But on the other hand, it's the Sixers. So, nothing.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Yeah. You tried to tie the NFL and the NBA together. Good job. In the NFL, we had a new nuance this year, the hold in, where players would show up and say, yeah, but I can't play. At that point, that's going to happen with Ben. And probably pretty quickly here, he's going to show up, but he's going to have this phantom injury that we didn't see in any of the great videos that he put on Instagram all off season. Somehow he's going to have contracted this massive injury that's not going to allow him to play. But he's going to be with the team because he's going to get tired of them pulling $30,000 out of his pocket
and
for
remember,
missing practice every day.
Remember, guys, the NFL shifted towards, back in the old days, you could have, we're going to find a guy. We're going to find a guy. We're going to find a guy every day during training camp. And then you'd make up and you'd waive the fines. So it didn't mean anything.
Right. Yes.
Now, but they changed that. That's the reason Aaron Rodgers came in. You couldn't forgive the fines any longer under the new CBA. So they have changed it, made it a little bit harsher.
Yeah, but then if you go, back over like the last 15 years and compare to NBA holdouts, so it'd be completely different. But I it's crazy to me because and that was suggested, and so somebody reported it like, hey, he might come back and just try to say he's got an injury. But if they were going to do that, then Clutch should have told him. This is why he's getting such bad information, because if you're going to do the injury thing, do it at the very beginning of camp. At least try to sell it. You're not like hold out for a week and a half and then, oh, I twisted my ankle or something. The whole thing
Twisted my ankle, but I'm coming in.
The whole thing is pitiful. I mean, you got video of
you
Boban
thought I was
shooting
kidding.
3-pointers now.
Oh, he's going to have the video. They're
Yeah.
going to get him out to that high school gym that they shot all the videos all summer, and he's going to, let's see how good an actor he is. What kind of fall is he going to take to justify the injury he's going to show up with? I'm telling you, it's going to be one of the best crossing board things
He's going to
ever.
get thoracic outlet syndrome overnight.
That's like a trigger. That's like a trigger word for me. Like anytime I hear thoracic outlets, or I hear the navicular bone or anything like that, like something like triggers in my brain, and I'm like ready to.
Speaking of trigger words, I can guarantee you, talismanic. Is that the word you used before?
Yeah.
I never heard of it before, and it's never been used.
Well
never
done,
been
Kinkead.
used on Crossing Broad before.
No
one has ever brought talismanic to the forefront
I might
on
steal
Crossing
that,
Board.
Kevin.
It took
It's a good
Kevin
word.
Kinkead to do so.
Well, listen, I'm here to I'm here to kind of help. We try to educate at the same time. Somebody can learn. If somebody can learn something, that's all I can ask for them. It's a great word. Yes, a tal is. If somebody's a talisman,
I like it. It's a copycat league, Kevin. I might take that.
That's right. Yeah, I might find that in other writings today, but that's okay.
Feel free, buddy. We loved it. Always a pleasure, KK. Thanks much. Get your dog out. Let the dog get out. Let him get chasing after a squirrel. You've had him locked up too long.
I know. I feel like I'm holding him back. It's like Free Willy. I just got to let him go or something.
Yes, let him go. That is Kevin Kinkead from Crossing Broad, one of the most fun guys we get with us here on Birds 365. All right, he's John McMullen. I'm Jody McDonald. I want to take John McMullen for a walk down memory lane. A good walk down memory lane.
Oh, all right. That's
a 4 years ago walk down memory lane. And we all know what happened 4 years ago with the Philadelphia Eagles, right? I'll explain what I'm talking about when we come back here on Birds 365.